Only by searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained, and man can find every truth connected with his being, if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new web series called iThinketh. I'm John Miller, and we're going to be digging into this inspirational classic, As a Man Thinketh, written about 115 years ago by James Allen. This is one of the very first self-help classics, and it's helped a lot of people over the years. It's been in publication for many, many years, republished over and over again. And here, just this month, I'm releasing my documentary by the same title, As a Man Thinketh, and we're going to be highlighting some of the wisdom and the teachings of the book, As a Man Thinketh, in this documentary, and also through this web series, iThinketh. And so I wanted to go ahead and get started. The film itself is actually going to start screening this month, different places around the country. You can go to thinkethmovie.com and find out more about where you can see the movie. And I want to start it off with this is actually one of the folks that's in the movie. He was nice enough to lend some of his writing to our website, thinkethmovie.com. And a guy named Mitch Horowitz. He's a well-known author. He's written several books, including One Simple Idea, How Positive Thinking Shaped America. It's a really great book. You need to check it out if you haven't already. But I wanted to share with you a little bit of what he had to say in this article here. It's called Why James Allen Still Matters, and Why As a Man Thinketh, the book itself still matters. He starts off saying, James Allen's literary career was short, ranging roughly from the publication of his first book in 1901 to his death in 1912. Yet these few years of output resulted in nearly 20 books, including one of the most widely read inspirational works of our time, As a Man Thinketh. Allen's book became read in households where few or no other New Thought books were found. His methods of mental creativity and ethical self-seeking set the template for much of the metaphysical culture in America in the 20th century. But he goes on, he says, as the book's popularity rose, the phrase, As a Man Thinketh, became the informal motto of the New Thought movement, adopted and repeated by motivational writers throughout the century. Allen's book was marked by memorable aphoristic lessons which have withstood the passage of time. As a Man Thinketh defined achievement in deeply personal terms. You will become as small as your controlling desire, as great as your dominant aspiration. Then he goes on. He says, yet the full impact of As a Man Thinketh can best be seen in the successive generations of everyday readers who embraced its aphoristic lessons in directing one's thoughts to higher aims and to understanding success as the outer manifestation of inner development. You can find the rest of it on our homepage, newthoughtmovie.com. Mitch Horowitz has a wonderful article on why James Allen still matters. And he's also featured in the film. He's got some really great insight to add to the film. All right, so now on the line we've got Mr. Mark Moore, who is a good friend of mine from several years back, and I'm really excited because he was actually the DP on this film, the narrative part that we did, and so it was really cool to get to work with him on this project. Mark, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, man, I want to thank you for being a part of making this film happen.
Oh, man, it was my pleasure and an honor. You said it from a few years back. What, are we not friends anymore? I'm shocked.
I meant that we go back a really long way. That's what I mean.
Yeah, like 16, 17 years now.
16, 17 years ago. Yeah, and what's crazy is, I had the idea to do this movie, and I wanted to do more than just a documentary. I wanted to do like a narrative part and have a storyline with actors and actresses. And for me, I was dragging my feet for the longest time because, I was very familiar with the world of doing documentaries and that sort of thing, but I had no idea what to do with actors and actresses and how to work in that sort of environment. And eventually it dawned on me one day. I'm like, well, I've got a buddy, Mark Moore, in Orlando that has lots of experience with this. And so all I got to do is get my butt down to Orlando so we can do this.
That's right. And you did.
Yeah, and it was a
You were
whirlwind.
very nervous about it at the beginning. I remember when you first called me about it, and you
Mhm.
said, "I'm a little nervous to ask you this." And I was like, "How
Because there
hard
was
would
no
it be to
backup. There was no
do this?"
backup, Mark.
No, there was no backup. I didn't, and to me, it was like second nature. I was like, "Sure, we can do this."
Yeah, we could knock it out. And we did.
No
We
problem.
knocked it out. We knocked out all of our stuff. Most of the stuff we knocked out in one day, and then we had other stuff that we had to shoot the next day with just JC, our main actor in the movie. And what's really cool is I got to work. In working with you, you were already familiar with a lot of actors and actresses in town there in Orlando, and so whenever I started coming up with, oh, we need this and we need that, we need a person to play this part and that part, you had, you had several people to pull from, and I want to say we landed on everybody that you selected there in our very first conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were very good about, letting me know the character types that you wanted, and they just kind of sprung to mind because, when I first moved to Orlando, I didn't know anybody at all, and growing in the business here, and getting my toes into the film aspect of Orlando was actually a lot easier than making friends, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So just kind of making relationships and meeting people and, networking just like you. And when you said, hey, I want, this person and this person and this person, they just flooded to my head. I knew exactly who we should get. And when the time frame that, I love how far you like to work ahead. Because I'm so used to not having that type of luxury of planning things out,
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, are you available this time? Are you available this time? And they're like, yes, 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 yes. And I made sure that I got all these people, a verbal from all these people, so that I could go to you and you would know without a shadow of a doubt we're not going to have any.
Well, and these were all people that you'd worked with before too.
Yes, 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 there were, and a lot of them not a whole lot of work, but just a little bit of work. But from reputation and knowing who they were, I knew that they were 150% dependable. And when it comes to their work as actors, that's what they do. So they're working actors, and they've been working in major TV shows and print magazines for a decade or more. So I knew that we wouldn't have any problems, with them learning their lines. They'd come to the set ready to go, and and they were.
Yeah.
I knew you said, "Hey, we need to get this done." You didn't believe me that we could get this done in like 2 days.
Well, yeah,
that we were going to get what we got done in 1 day.
Yeah,
but we did. I was actually kind of at the end of the day, after I couldn't stand anymore on my feet, I was still amazed that we got the amount of material done.
Yeah, you said put on some comfortable shoes because we're gonna boogie. And we did.
Yeah, we did. I don't. You know what? I think the only time I remember sitting down was when I was sitting across from JC in the coffee shop doing that one scene.
Yeah,
that was like the only time.
Well,
that
then,
I remember
but we
sitting
did have enough time to break away and have lunch at the Moon Cricket there.
That was true. I almost forgot about we had lunch.
Hey, yeah, that's the other thing. The other thing was whenever we first started talking about this, immediately you said we can shoot this in Winter Garden, and talk about that town, and because we do end up seeing some of the scenery there in Winter Garden.
Yeah, I love Winter Garden. I when I first moved down to Orlando, it's kind of Orlando is very spread out. First of all, a lot of people don't know that it is.
Yeah.
And there's so many towns and townships around, Central Florida that people might not be aware of. And Winter Garden is one of those towns. And it's such a beautiful town because it reminds me, when you asked me what it was like, it's kind of like Disney's Main Street USA, Anytown USA. It's so well manicured and groomed and beautiful. And the architecture is, that of very, Norman Rockwell type early Americana, and then it just has that such a welcoming, vibe to it that when you come down there, it's like, I want to live here. I kind of, it's like it's that much of a welcome home.
Yeah.
And I know I described it to you a couple times, and I don't think it wasn't until you came down, we actually had dinner there.
Yeah.
That I totally get what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. Because I knew I had to write this thing. I had to write all of the characters and the script and everything. And so, for me, I had to make a trip to go down there just to see it and to kind of get a better idea of of the coffee shop in particular. We ended up at that coffee shop that you scouted out for us. And I had to just kind of be there and just kind of soak myself into the environment to kind of write, what was going to be the dialogue and just kind of, figure out a few things really,
Yeah, yeah. And what I loved about Winter Garden is that you were so worried about things being so spread out, and it's like, how are we going to get all this stuff done, in this amount of time? And everything was probably maybe 3 blocks of each other.
Yeah, and your friend over there at the Florida Film Academy, she was real sweet about letting us use their space over there. We shot all of our office scenes,
absolutely,
just a mile or two away from the coffee shop.
Yeah, Stephanie is awesome. I've taught 2 screenwriting seminars there for them, and I've got 2 coming up. And yeah, I mean they love to help out and volunteer to do stuff, and so yeah, they were very much accommodating, which was great.
Yeah, that's really cool. And now I sent you a screener, and you got to see sort of the draft of the movie. Is there anything you want to share with the people that are listening and watching? What was your takeaway?
I loved it. You sent me, you gave me a copy of the book and what we were doing, and I mean, I had a pretty good idea about how it was going to go out, be laid out. After seeing it, I would say that it's, not. I mean, the book has been around for years and years and years and years, obviously, and it could really be It's timely. It's a timely documentary, but I told you before, I was like, it could be timely anytime. Right now, I think the way, the temperature of the country and the way things are right now, and how people have been kind of feeling about, just things, and
sure,
right now is really, I can't really think of a better time for it to come out into the world, because I think people really kind of just need a healing and kind of a moral direction, for their moral compasses, not that people don't have good compasses, but sometimes it's sort of just that it's sort of like a reset button.
I hear what you're saying, because it's like, I think too many times now, the way things are with our media and our social media, we get stuck into our own echo chamber, and we hear over and over again about all the the ills of the world and what's going on wrong, and what's and so we kind of get stuck in that cycle. And this is something that can maybe help us break that cycle and become more intentional about the life that we're trying to create and the life that we want to have.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's funny because when you start working in in the world of like religious documentaries or Christian documentaries, I think people automatically have a stigma, like, I don't want to be preached at. I don't want to be preached.
Right.
I don't want to hear, it's like, I don't want to hear this. This is not that in the least bit, but it's very, it is very spiritual and Christian without it being in that framework that people think that it's going to be. And then but it's 100% positive, and it's not like an hour and a half of a Tony Robbins seminar,
right?
It's real, organic, basic, things that just make 150% perfect sense, and there's not one person alive that can't relate.
Right, you're absolutely right, and that's the thing. It's very relatable, and the book did a great job of doing that. And so, what we really wanted to do was just pull that across and make it into something that is that's current and that feels very very right now. And so I appreciate you helping me do that and make that for everybody.
Well, I was honored. I mean, like I said, just being working with you
Yeah.
for, knowing you for so many years, and I've become a huge fan of everything that you do and everything that you've done, and so yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a question. It's like, hey, would you help? I'm like, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, we need to do some more stuff together, man. We really do, and I hope
I
that
had an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Absolute blast doing it.
Well, and I think our cast did too. I've heard from, I think pretty much everybody that was in the movie. They were like, let me know when you get ready to do something else, and I'm on board or whatever. And so it's good when you have a project like that everybody's on board with, and I hope we can have a screening in Orlando, and maybe we can get the cast together and have a big party.
I don't think that would be a big thing to do. I think that would be I think that would be as easy to choreograph as it was putting it together in the first place.
Yeah, well, let's do it. And so I appreciate you coming on and talking with us. And if anybody wants to find out more about the productions that you're involved with outside of this film, what do they need to do?
They could go to picturepointfilms.com, PHERPOINT films.com, or they could go and look at my representation, which is Little Studio Films out of Los Angeles, and that's littlestudiofilms.com.
All right. Well, cool, man. Well, let's keep in touch, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. It was great talking to you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you.
Bye.
So let's go ahead and dig into the book itself. As a Man Thinketh. Now, this is this particular copy is the one that we actually used. This was the prop in the movie. So if you get to see the movie and you see this, you'll see this actual book, and it is. I mean, it's the actual copy. It's I want to say this one here was published in the 1950s. I'll start with the foreword, and what's really cool is I was looking for a way in the film to let everybody know that this is, despite the title, As a Man Thinketh, this is principles for anybody. This is principles for anybody. And so it's not, that might be the title, but it doesn't matter if you're a man or woman, or race, creed, religion, whatever. You can find something in this book and in this film that's going to help you. And so I wanted to include that somehow in the beginning of the movie. And I didn't have to look any further than James Allen's foreword himself, right here at the very beginning. And I'll read a little bit of it. This little volume, the result of meditation and experience, is not intended as an exhaustive treatise on the much written upon subject of the power of thought. It is suggestive rather than explanatory. Its object being to stimulate men and women to the discovery and the perception of the truth, that they themselves are makers of themselves. Isn't that awesome? So right here in his own foreword, his own writing, he says the object of this is to stimulate men and women to the discovery and the perception of the truth, that they are makers of themselves. That's awesome. I love that. So we'll go ahead and get into the first chapter here. This is, and I say chapter. If you've read this book, you know this is a very short book. You can see it if you're watching this on the video. You can see it's a very short book. I'm going to call it sections because you almost can't call them chapters because they're so short. But there's a lot of great information here. It's very dense, and it's almost like he doesn't waste a word. He's very concise with the way he says things, and you could almost take each sentence in the book and just kind of take it as a word of wisdom of the day, sentence by sentence, and go through the whole book that way, and just concentrate on one line of the book and just make that your meditation for the day. But I'm going to go ahead and start at the beginning of this first section. The first section is thought and character. He says, the aphorism, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, not only embraces the whole of a man's being, but is also comprehensive as to reach out to every condition and circumstance of his life. A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all of his thoughts. As the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without them. So I love that. He's talking about our thoughts being seeds. He's talking about the importance of our words and our actions and how it all goes together. So he goes on here. He says, man is made or unmade by himself. In the armor of thoughts, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy, strength, and peace. So he's saying that you can take your thoughts and you can use them any way you want. You can use them to build yourself up, build up the people around you, or you can use it as a weapon if you so choose to tear yourself down. And I think, unfortunately, too many people, and I'm including myself in this, have used their words and their thoughts and their actions to tear themselves down, to tear others around them down. But we could just as easily use those as tools to uplift ourselves and others. He goes on, let's see, I love this. Man is always the master, even in his weakest and most abandoned state. But in his weakness and degradation, he is the foolish master who misgoverns his household. When he begins to reflect upon his condition and to search diligently for the law upon which his being is established, he then becomes the wise master, directing his energies with intelligence and fashioning his thoughts to fruitful issues. So basically, what he's saying there is that you can choose. You have the choice of using this however you like, and if you want to use it unconsciously, you're more than welcome to do that. Or if you want to uh, take up responsibility and live with integrity, then you can do that as well. And that's what he's calling forth here. That's what he's calling for us to do. And then he goes on at the end of this section here. He says, he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. For only by patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity can a man enter the door of the temple of knowledge.
You might not even realize that every day you wake up and you're bashing your car, you're bashing your work, you're bashing your family, you're bashing yourself, you're bashing your day, or you have a lot of anger towards somebody and it's constant, but you're not realizing, and then that may show up as the car accident or as disease in your life. That's going to be made manifest.
All right, everybody, now we're with Marianne Padalano. Did I say that right?
Yes, Padalano.
And we just heard your clip from the beginning of the movie where you're talking about, a lot of people, they wake up, they don't even realize that they're bashing their work, they're bashing their relationships. They're doing all of this, without even really recognizing what they're doing. That tends to be the case if you're not actively, if you're not actively moving in the other direction, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think something like this film and certainly the book and the whole New Thought movement really is trying to get us to become more conscious of what we're doing. We're doing much of this unconsciously or even consciously and not realizing the consequences.
Sure, and that's the thing that he keeps, especially in the beginning of the book, James Allen's book, As a Man Thinketh, he keeps going back to this idea of planting seeds. And we really are planting seeds with everything that we say and we do, whether we know we're using it or not, and whether we're, doing it in a proactive way or in a destructive way that we don't even realize, right?
Right, that's right. And so the analogy is the seed or a garden. And, what are you cultivating in that garden?
When we plant a seed, let's say we start off our day and we're thinking, oh gosh, today is Monday.
Right,
Monday
it's
is
already
always the
Monday.
worst day of the week. And you're planting
Right.
that seed, and the more you feel that, the more you experience that, and you're actually, like you say, you're cultivating that. You're giving that an environment which it can grow and become a
Yes.
reality in your life.
Yes, yes. So it's almost like every single thought we think does not necessarily manifest, but the ones that we feed or with the fertilizer, or, with our energy, with our just continuous thoughts, beliefs, and particularly strong feelings, those are going to manifest. And that's a great example of how if on a Monday you wake up dreading it or cursing it, that's not really a good start to the day.
Yeah, you're giving that seed an environment in which it can be nourished and grow and become an even bigger part of your life, and
Yes,
just
and
becomes a self-fulfilling
you
prophecy.
as an individual are doing that, and that's what we're trying to focus on, is that it's you, an individual, has that power within themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being a part of the movie, and I'll share this with the people watching this or listening. First met Marianne at the INTA Congress last year, and just fell in love with your personality, your take on different things. I felt like you'd have a lot to add to this subject, and
Yes.
we didn't know each other beforehand or anything else. And you've just been very instrumental in not only being a part of it, but also being a part of the release. And
Yes.
you've been helping get some of the screenings together. And you're
Yes.
actually going to be at a couple of the screenings that are going on in North Carolina coming up, right?
Yes, yes, at the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, of which I'm a member, and I'm licensed as a licensed religious science practitioner there. That's going to be on October 20th. And then at the Oasis in Carborough in North Carolina, that's going to be on the 27th of October. And I'm very excited, and the community out here is very excited also about the film.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what are you gonna have like a little question and answer thing afterwards, or what?
Yes, yes, I'm actually going to host these screenings, and I'll explain to everybody how I came to be in the movie, and also any questions that they have about the book and the movie. And so it's exciting. I'm excited about it.
That's awesome. Well, now, and we got some other screenings coming up, and I know you're helping facilitate some of those. What are some of the reasons why a church or center might think about having one of these screenings at their place?
Right. Well, I think that number one, it's a brand new movie. Okay. And I think that it takes things a little further than all this new thought stuff that we typically hear, as far as just being about materialism or this sort of thing. And I think that the movie presents a very real life sort of situation where situations that a lot of people can relate to. And it's just going to sort of reignite the thoughts are things type of thing in their community, and just help raise the consciousness again of communities, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I know there's a church. I keep hearing different things about what different groups are doing, and some groups do. They do dinner and a movie, or they're tying it into some sort of fundraiser that they're doing. There's one church in Panama City that's actually doing a book study of As a Man Thinketh to go along with their screening.
Yes, exactly. Yes, they're starting a couple weeks before the screening to generate interest and sort of an in-depth look at the book. And other centers are doing the other thing too, like having a dinner night, a movie night type thing, or after their service on Sunday as a fundraiser. So it's really going to benefit the centers as well.
Yeah,
It's
and
really
it's a really cool. I mean, it's whatever their creativity wants to do with it. I mean, if they've got
yeah,
if they got a
anything.
center
Yeah.
that they're doing good just to have a movie night, they can just do that. If they want to expand on a little bit and do some
Yeah.
snacks, or they want to do a potluck dinner, or they want to, they might even want to tie in a sermon series with the book, and going into different books, or this book in particular. So there's any number of different things that you can do with this. And I think
Exactly.
it's really cool to see
Yes.
that some of the different groups are doing that. Um,
Yes, yes, it is. That is so cool.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming on and joining me today. And is there anything you want to add? Because I know probably after our interview, you dove a little bit even deeper into the book As a Man Thinketh. What was your takeaway overall of the wisdom and the teachings of the book?
Well, I think that it's just fantastic how it really, really just delves into the consciousness of your everyday life. And the idea that thoughts actually, James Allen gets into that, thoughts create a habit, sort of habitual thinking, or even a physical habit. So thoughts, habit, circumstance also is in the book. And that ties into all of our lives every day. You know, we're wondering why these things repeat or why things happen. And that has to do with it as well. And but I think the message also is, yes, to watch our consciousness and that we are powerful co-creators with spirit or God. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about it too is that it teaches so clearly, and it's not dogmatic. It's not, you can embrace this teaching no matter what your faith background is, wherever you're coming from. There are just undeniable truths to what he's saying in the book. It's really accessible in that way, I think.
Yes, I think so. I think anybody can relate to it, and really, truly.
Well, I appreciate you checking in with us, and we're going to be checking in with you again throughout our web series, and so we hope to have you back again sometime real soon.
I shall, yes.
All right.
Wonderful. Yes, well, thank you, John.
All right, thanks, Marianne. Take care.
Thank you.
We so much appreciate y'all joining us on this very first episode of our web series, I Thinketh. If you haven't read the book, or it's been a long time since you read the book, you can actually go to our website, thinkethmovie.com, and you can actually read it right there online. It doesn't take very long to go through it. You can see this is the actual book. You can see it's not very thick, but there's a lot of great wisdom in these pages, and so we encourage y'all to go and read it for yourself. That's thinkethmovie.com, and we'll be coming back next week with the next part of our series, the effect of thought on circumstances. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up for you. And we hope you all have enjoyed it, and we will see you next time right here, I Thinketh.
As you think, so you will become.
Why? Why? Always me. Why?
But you notice it all begins with thought. James Allen was one of the first to do that, and he did it so crystal clear that it's still relevant today.
As a Man Thinketh, as his most popular book, was very widely read, very widely quoted. Its ideas were very widely adopted. It influenced a whole generation of self-help writers.
How is it that you have no wife, no job, but you still don't have time to look over a freaking letter and sign it?
What a man thinketh, or what a woman thinketh in their heart, has a tendency to come into their life. So the law doesn't discriminate between, I'm very, very, very afraid of this, or I'm very, very available to this.
Do you want more? I love that book. James Allen's book, As a Man Thinketh, is wonderful. Thoughts held in mind reproduce after their own kind. So when you hold something in mind and you let it move down into your heart and your feeling nature, you become extremely powerful.
A man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life.